The Stillwater Planning Commission meeting of December 3rd, 2019 is called to order. Miscellaneous items for the Planning Commission, election of a vice chair. Do I hear a nomination for election of a vice chair?
I nominate Mike Shanahan.
He says he won't do it. No.
I nominate Brad Rickleman.
Do I hear a second to that?
I second.
First nomination was died because of lack of a second. We have one nomination. Any other? Not hearing, let's vote.
Give me just a second, guys. Sorry. Well, it's not going to show up, but okay. Oh yeah, this is for election. No, this is the election for. So Mr. Rickleman is our vice chair.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
There we go. Already some wrong.
Item 3A, consent docket. KMR Development LLC final plat requesting review approval of the final plat named Estrict Second Section Block 6 on property currently addressed as 906 East Swim Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this as an item on the consent docket, you can, if you want a full presentation, we can do that, or you can just take the item and approve the consent docket as listed on the agenda.
Do you hear a motion, or do you want a full presentation?
I move we approve the consent docket.
Second.
Let's vote.
Consent docket is approved as presented.
Item 5 is public hearings. The commission here on public hearings will hear briefly from the staff first, then the applicant or representative, then open the public hearing or hear from those in favor and opposition to the request. When you come to the podium, please clearly state your name and address for the record. After all interested parties have spoken, the public hearing will be closed. Your closing remarks and alternatives from staff. Item 5A, Silverton Estates, final plat, requesting review approval of the final plat to create a residential subdivision of 42 lots, zone residential single-family small lots on property currently addressed as 1600 East 16th Avenue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Ryan Harkins, Community Development. This item was tabled from the November 5th Planning Commission meeting to this date with the direction to make some revisions or suggestions based on findings of fact. This final plat has been resubmitted last Wednesday with a couple of minor revisions and some additional information. Staff has not reviewed those changes yet. Yesterday, the agent for the applicant requested a deferment to the December 17th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to allow staff to review those changes. We can basically tell you, as you know, this is the subject area. This is the aerial. This was the plat, the proposed final plat that you looked at last month and discussed. This is the submission that was provided last Wednesday afternoon to staff that we have not finished reviewing yet. So I believe that's why the applicant is looking for that deferral in order to give staff, one, the opportunity to review it thoroughly, and two, discuss any potential revisions that come out based of those reviews. Any questions I can answer at this point before I let the applicant or their agent come up to try and answer any of your questions?
Any questions?
Okay. At this point, I'm going to allow the applicant's agent to come forward, give a chance to speak to the the project and the request for the deferment, and then if you have any other questions, you can ask them.
Good evening, Kelly Harris with Keystone Engineering, located at 923 South Lowry, here representing the owners tonight. We did submit a revised final plat last week, and staff has not had time to review it due to Thanksgiving breaks and everything. And so we are requesting that 2-week continuation, I guess might be the right terminology, until the next meeting for that review to happen. We did combine some lots on the north side, revise some easement widths and alignments going to the property to the north. And then the owners have agreed to reconstruct Payne Street, widen it to city standard going out to 17th Avenue. So those are some of the highlights of the changes that you'll see coming to you if you choose to table this until next time. Any questions?
Is it important that it be on the next planning commission meeting, or could we defer it until January?
It's really up to you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will officially open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this item? I assumed you were not, but I wanted to give that opportunity. If there's anybody in the room to speak in favor of the item, I wanted them to speak. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak in opposition to this item or just for general information?
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name's Tom Bradley. I live at 1611 South Payne Street in the neighborhood of the proposed development. With new information coming forward in a 2-week delay to the next meeting, I would encourage the Planning Commission to set this back to sometime in January so the new information that is going to be reviewed by city staff will have the opportunity to review it as well. And that with the holiday season coming in, it will give all the people in the neighborhood a fair opportunity to look at the changes and come back to the next Planning Commission and present their side of the story, sir. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Anybody else that would like to speak either in opposition or make any statements of any kind?
Hello, I'm Todd Brown. I live at 1607 South Payne. And one of the things I feel like has been neglected to be talked about during this whole process is it seems everybody talks about Payne Street because it's what is providing entrance and exit from this development, but they don't talk about 17th Street as much. Agreeing to widen Payne Street alone is no different than agreeing to widen Payne Street halfway down. I mean, 17th Street is exactly the same problem as Payne Street. They're both very narrow, very insufficient for development of this size, this many cars. That's one issue that I have. And, you know, of course, it is not in keeping with the neighborhood at all. You know, these really small lots. I know that that's legal. It's zoned that way. To me, it just doesn't make sense. I wanted to voice that. So, thank you.
Anybody else that'd like to speak on this item?
Ray Bernard, 1602 South Payne, here in opposition. This has been going on since May. It's been tabled at least twice, maybe 3 times, postponed once. The issues are still the same. As noted in page 2 of your report, first paragraph discussion, last sentence. It should be noted that the surrounding 40 lots contain 103 acres with a dwelling unit density of 0.39 units per acre. And that's what we have. So we got 103 acres of that. That's our neighborhood. You know, 5-acre lots, smallest being a half-acre. So, though technically this may be zoned, generally zoning issues or labels or categories are done to protect neighborhoods, not to deteriorate them. And this is not on the fringe of our neighborhood, and it have the same impact on our neighborhood as building a multi-story apartment complex in a denser residential neighborhood. That much more population, that much more traffic, and that much more change. So I would urge you to find for a fact that it'll be harmful to the neighborhood, harmful to our way of life we enjoy now, and the serenity. And I'd like you to find that as a proposed finding of fact. Also, paragraph 3 under discussion, remaining issues, and these were here last month. Remaining issues that need to be resolved deal with drainage, obtaining a drainage easement, and I don't know if there are any changes in this plan that she resubmitted dealing with drainage, other than the fact that she doesn't get a temporary easement for earthwork on the north pond. So that sounds like the pond's more or less staying. So if it goes out to spillway, it's going to come to the street. I'm just going to get a tremendous amount more runoff down these streets than I currently do. And it goes into a fairly narrow area, not much wider than where you all are sitting. And in 65 years, I've not had, I didn't own all of that for all the 65 years, but there's been virtually no erosion there. I can mow it, it stays dry enough to mow, and I feel like that will change. So, and on that same page, page 2 down there, where Planning Commission tabled it due to the following concerns. The number of lots being excessive. That's not changed. This maybe one lot, this revision she sent to you that you had in your packet there. Still got the same number of lots. It's still out of character. They are agreeing to do Payne Street now, so, you know, that's something. But city staff still got concerns that the proposed drainage system would not be able to actually handle the proposed runoff. That's not just my concern. That's the city engineer's concern. Now, he's not here, so you can't ask him that, but that's his concern because I've asked him. So I would urge you to find that it's too dense for the neighborhood, it will harm the neighborhood, and the drainage plan's inadequate, and recommend denial to City Commission. Thank you.
The city engineer that you talked to that said it was not adequate, do you remember the name of that person?
Sure. Monty Carnes.
Okay. I know Monty. Thank you. Anybody else that'd like to speak on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Staff, you want to give us the alternatives?
Sure. Okay, so the alternatives are: 1, you can accept the findings and recommend approval. You can find the request as not appropriate and recommend denial, stating objections to the final plat. Or you can table the item to a certain date. That would be the request of the applicant at this time, that you table it at least to the 17th of December. There are some I know that has spoke tonight to this item asking for deferment into January to one of the Planning Commission meetings there. So those would be options as far as alternatives that you have available at this time. Any questions I can answer?
Anybody have any questions?
I think that city staff hasn't had a chance to look over things. The significant details of the plan depend on their reviewing them for us to be able to make a good decision on it. So, you know, my feeling would be to let them have the 30 days, get into January, just so people can get out of the holiday season, and then make a decision at that point.
So the second meeting of the Planning Commission in January is what date?
January 21st.
My suggestion is to move it to January 21st. And that'll give plenty of time for the staff and then for that comments to get out and the citizens in this area to review the comments and come back. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we defer this item to the Planning Commission meeting of January 21st,
Is there a
Second.
2020.
I second that.
You want to defer it, you just want to table it?
Yeah, I want to use the correct semantics. Yes, right.
Well, the motion is to table it to January 21st of 2020. Let's vote. The motion is passed. This item will be tabled to January 21st of 2020. The next item is the meeting minutes of November 19, 2019. And my understanding is there's a minor adjustments in those meeting minutes.
Yes, just one minor change. It shows me as present. I appreciate that you believe that I was there, except that I was absent. And so if you could place me in the absent column, I would appreciate that.
We will have Chelsea correct that. She just confident that you were going to be there. Maybe got ahead of the game there. Because the voting blocks do reflect that you are
They do.
absent, so the votings are.
Yes. You want to make that motion to approve the minutes with that change?
I move we approve the minutes with the emendation.
I second the motion.
Let's vote. Motion passes 4-0. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.